theory because first of all, the terminology is strange because game theory, I mean, you could hardly imagine something that might sound more trivial than that. I mean, first of all, it's games, and second of all, it's theory, but there's absolutely nothing whatsoever that's even minimally trivial about game theory. It's unbelievably important, and I kind of stumbled across it sideways. I was reading work by Jaak Panksepp, who did a lot of work with rats, and Panksepp showed that if you paired rats repeatedly together, juvenile males, and you allowed them to play, the little rat who had to invite to play once dominance had been established, he would stop inviting to play if the big rat didn't let him win 30% at the time in repeated bouts, say. And I thought, oh my God, that's so cool, because what you see there is something like an emergent morality of play in rats merely as a consequence of the repeated pairing of the same individuals, across an indeterminate landscape. And that's an unbelievably compelling and stunning discovery, because it indicates something like the emergence of a spontaneous morality. Now, you talk about game theory. Do you want to review for everybody, first of all, what game theory is, and then what the major findings of the field are? We can talk about tit for tat and the variations, but please let everybody know what game theory is and why it's so important.
Sure. Maybe, just to emphasize the point you made right from the start that this is not fun and games. Game theory was mostly the purview of war strategists and diplomats and people planning, mutually assured destruction. So this was rather serious stuff. At some point, the biologists got a hold of it, and especially zoologists. And the sort of rationale was, like, you look at a giraffe, and you're some cardiovascular giraffe person, and you do all these calculations about, like, if you're going to have a head that's that far above your heart, and you're going to have this body weight and blah, blah, whatever, you're going to have a heart with its walls that are this thick or this, like, vascular properties, and then the scientists go and study it, and that's exactly what you see. Isn't that amazing? Isn't nature wonderful? Or, like, you look at desert rats, and you do all this theoretical modeling stuff, and figure out if they're going to survive in the desert, their kidneys have to retain water at this unbelievable rate, and then people would go and study it, and that's exactly how the kidneys work. Isn't that amazing? And it's not so amazing because, like, if you're going to have giraffes shaped like giraffes, the heart has to be that way. There is an intrinsic logic to how it had to evolve. And if you're going to be a desert rodent, there's an intrinsic logic to how your kidneys go about living in the desert. And the whole notion of game theory as applied to evolution, animal behavior, human behavior, etc., is there's an intrinsic logic. The logic of our behavior has been as sculpted by evolutionary exigencies as the logic of our hearts and the logic of our kidneys and everything else in there. And by the time it comes to behavior, a lot of it is built around when is the optimal time to do X and when do you do the opposite of X.